Lying at the very edge of the solar system, where sunlight is nothing more than a fading memory, a tiny world orbits silently in eternal darkness. This is Pluto, the most distant, most mysterious celestial body humanity ever yearned to conquer. For nearly a century, it stood as the pride of mankind, universally celebrated as our ninth planet. But in one fateful moment, that legendary title was abruptly stripped away. Today, we journey into the freezing void to uncover the real truth behind this abandoned child. The year was 1930. The desperate hunt for Planet X, a phantom world tugging at the edge of our solar system, was a soul-crushing endeavor. Enter Clyde Tombaugh, an astronomer armed with nothing but fragile glass photographic plates and sheer, agonizing human endurance. Night after freezing night, he stared into a pitch-black cosmic ocean, manually searching through a blinding blizzard of millions of motionless stars. It was a brutal test of absolute perseverance. Then, against all odds, amidst that static sea of light, he found it, a single microscopic wanderer shifting in the dark. When that tiny, insignificant speck of light was finally caught shifting across the freezing winter sky, the celestial body itself immediately took center stage. The announcement struck the globe with the explosive force of a supernova. On March 14th, the front page of the New York Times boldly proclaimed, "Ninth Planet X is discovered on edge of solar system." Across the Atlantic, the Times of London painted deeply romantic pictures of a new, lonely sovereign ruling the absolute limits of human reach, like soon-to-be-named Pluto by an 11-year-old schoolgirl. In an era suffocating under the crushing realities of the Great Depression, this pristine, untouched frontier offered an exhausted humanity a magnificent, unifying escape. It instantly became a cultural icon, the undisputed king of the dark abyss. Yet, this sudden, blinding global fame was secretly masking a devastating scientific reality, a fragile illusion that would eventually trigger its spectacular fall from grace. For 76 years, Pluto was far more than a distant rock. It was a foundational pillar of our reality. Every classroom on Earth featured the same iconic poster, a neat, orderly line of worlds ending with that tiny, defiant sphere. We didn't just teach children about a planet, we taught them a story of endurance. Pluto was the ultimate cosmic underdog, the solitary watchman standing brave against the terrifying, infinite emptiness of interstellar space. It represented the absolute boundary of our home, the grand finale of the solar system. While the gas giants paraded their massive rings in raging storms, Pluto held a different kind of majesty. It was the only world never touched by human machinery, a completely blank canvas for our deepest scientific fantasies. This legendary status, however, was secretly built on a fragile foundation of ignorance. We worshipped a ghost, aggressively ignoring the mounting evidence that Pluto was far too small and its orbit far too erratic to be the planetary anchor we claimed it to be. Our tidy, 9-planet universe was a beautiful illusion, held together only by nostalgia and outdated textbooks. And illusions, no matter how deeply cherished, are always destined to be violently shattered. The halls of the International Astronomical Union in Prague in 2006 felt less like a scientific assembly and more like a cold, calculating tribunal. The problem wasn't that Pluto had physically changed. It was that our eyes had finally opened. Advanced deep space surveys were suddenly uncovering a chaotic swarm of icy bodies lurking in the dark just beyond Neptune. When astronomers discovered Eris, a distant world that appeared even more massive than Pluto, the realization was devastating. Pluto was never a lonely sentinel. It was merely a single piece of shrapnel in an unimaginably vast debris field known as the Kuiper Belt. To save the structural integrity of the solar system from being flooded with hundreds of new planets, the scientific elite aggressively rewrote the rules of reality. They drafted a clinical, targeted new definition. To be a planet, you must orbit the sun, be spherical, and, the fatal blow, you must have cleared your orbital path of all other debris. Because Pluto's path is hopelessly cluttered with thousands of icy neighbors, it failed instantly. With one controversial vote, the 9th planet was legally annihilated. It felt like a calculated betrayal of our childhood, leaving a billion-dollar spacecraft, New Horizons, hurtling toward a destination that had been stripped of its crown while the ship was still in mid-flight. But in our grief over losing a planet, We were entirely blind to the terrifyingly vast empire this outcast was quietly ruling. The label of dwarf planet carries a heavy, almost insulting connotation, painting Pluto as a cosmic failure that simply lacked the gravitational muscle to clean up its own messy orbit. In the sterile eyes of the astronomical elite, it was just a stubborn piece of debris incapable of dominating its surroundings. But this bureaucratic demotion completely misses the breathtaking reality of what Pluto actually represents. By stripping away its planetary title, we did not diminish its grandeur. We inadvertently revealed its true, terrifyingly vast empire. We were so fiercely focused on forcing Pluto to be the smallest, weakest member of our exclusive planetary club that we completely blinded ourselves to the majestic scale of its actual identity. For decades, we operated under the comforting delusion that the solar system ended with a neat, empty void just beyond Neptune. But as our digital eyes finally evolved enough to pierce the deep shadows, a terrifyingly massive structure materialized out of the cosmic static. Welcome to the Kuiper Belt, a violently chaotic, sprawling ring of primordial ice and ancient rock stretching billions of miles into the freezing abyss. This is not a barren wasteland. It is a crowded, highly dynamic frontier holding the pristine, frozen remnants of our solar system's violent birth. And in this unimaginable expanse of debris, Pluto is not a runt. It is the glittering crown jewel sitting atop a hidden kingdom, effortlessly trading the pathetic title of smallest planet for the genuinely awe-inspiring mantle of King of the Kuiper Belt. Long before the bureaucratic executioners in Prague swung their gavel to seal Pluto's fate, a dedicated team of engineers had already committed to the ultimate act of defiance. In January 2006, a piano-sized ambassador named New Horizons was violently strapped to an Atlas V rocket and hurled away from Earth at a staggering 36,000 miles per hour. It was a relentless silver bullet fired directly into the pitch-black void. The heartbreaking irony is that when New Horizons broke free of Earth's gravity, it was boldly flying toward our celebrated 9th planet. Just 7 months later, while the probe was hopelessly asleep in the freezing vacuum of deep space, its destination was legally erased. But the unfeeling machine did not care about the arbitrary definitions of men. It had an unbreakable rendezvous with the outcast. For 9 incredibly long years, New Horizons silently crossed 5 billion kilometers of absolute nothingness. The spacecraft was traveling so blindingly fast that stopping, orbiting, or even slowing down was physically impossible. Engineers on Earth were essentially trying to hit a moving target the size of a golf ball from a completely different continent, fully aware that a single collision with a dust particle the size of a grain of rice could instantly vaporize the entire multi-million-dollar mission. As the summer of 2015 approached, the tension within Mission Control reached a suffocating peak, setting the stage for a visual revelation that would completely shatter everything we thought we knew about the frozen frontier. As the first high-resolution data from New Horizons began to slowly piece itself together on the monitors of Mission Control, when the collective breath of the astronomical community caught in their throats. As the pixels sharpened, they did not reveal a desolate wasteland. Instead, they unveiled a world so impossibly dynamic, so breathtakingly complex, that it instantly shattered decades of established planetary science. We were staring at towering, majestic mountain ranges that pierced the thin atmosphere, soaring thousands of feet into the pitch-black sky. But these were not mountains born of shifting tectonic plates of rock. In the agonizingly cold temperatures of the outer solar system, water freezes so violently that it becomes harder than granite. We were looking at colossal, jagged peaks made entirely of solid bedrock water ice, and completely defying our understanding of how such massive geological structures could form on a world this small and incredibly distant. And then, as New Horizons slipped behind Pluto and looked back toward the faint sun, it captured a brilliant, glowing blue halo wrapping around the exiled world. But the absolute masterpiece of this flyby was an impossibly smooth, million-square-mile glacier shaped perfectly like a gigantic heart. Officially named Tombaugh Regio, this feature was an absolute geological paradox. In a solar system where every ancient surface is violently scarred by billions of years of relentless asteroid impacts, the western half of Pluto's heart was completely pristine. It was flawlessly smooth, entirely devoid of a single crater. This flawless surface delivered a terrifying, exhilarating realization. Pluto's heart is actively beating. The nitrogen ice is constantly churning, slowly bubbling up from below like cosmic magma, continuously renewing the surface and erasing the violent scars of the past. How does a world roughly the size of the United States, orbiting so far from the sun that daylight looks like a moonlit night, sustain this level of violent, churning geology? According to everything we understood about planetary physics, a body this small should have lost all its internal heat billions of years ago. It should be frozen completely solid, entirely dead to its core. We had confidently labeled it a dead dwarf, but Pluto was loudly, defiantly declaring its vitality, proving that true power in the cosmos doesn't always come from sheer size. The story of Pluto is the ultimate testament to the profound arrogance of our scientific labels and the boundless, terrifying majesty of the universe. In our desperate human need to categorize, control, and understand the infinite, we reduced this magnificent world to a mere bureaucratic debate. We voted to strip away a title, to demote a legend. We tried to force the cosmos into a neat, orderly box, and Pluto responded by completely blowing the lid off our reality. Whether you choose to call it a planet, a dwarf, or a Kuiper Belt object, the universe fundamentally does not care. A name is merely a fragile human construct, a tiny word we throw out into the echoing void. The truth is, Pluto does not need our validation to be extraordinary. It remains a staggering masterpiece of geological complexity, a churning world of ice and mystery that forced us to completely rewrite our textbooks. It taught us that the absolute edges of our maps are not filled with dead space, but with magnificent, living worlds just waiting for the light. The outcast we tried so desperately to forget ultimately forced us to look deeper into the dark, proving that the most profound discoveries often lie in the places we have officially dismissed. Pluto's exile was not a demotion, it was a glorious liberation. It ascended from being the smallest, most insignificant planet to becoming the absolute reigning king of a vast, uncharted frontier. The abandoned child has, forever, become a legend. If this journey to the edge of the solar system made you question everything you thought you knew about our cosmic neighborhood, I'd make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are constantly exploring the deepest, darkest mysteries of the universe, and you won't want to miss our next deep dive into the unknown. Drop a comment below and tell me, despite what the scientists say, is Pluto still a planet in your heart? Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and never stop questioning the dark. Stop questioning the dark.